Heyo, welcome to the Industry It's Game Design podcast. Now with a new name, and Sven is here again.
A new name and a new sounding intro. Has a different touch to it, definitely.
It does have a more professional. There we go. No, it's not more professional, but it's under the lens, you know? It's more, okay, it's immediately understandable. Yes, this is about game design.
Yeah, it's more specific, definitely. Yeah. For discoverability, people will know what's going on, more likely, I guess.
We were shying away from it in the beginning because we didn't want this podcast to be like completely only game design, because it's also about us. It's also about us hanging out with our friends from the industry, you know, some real life friends as well. And so we wanted to have this healthy mixture. And I think with the new title, we've hit it.
We've achieved that. Hit it all. Yeah, nice.
Yes. And also we're going to talk about the 2,000 listeners that you're so many out there today. We're going to talk a little bit about the Mafia Remake, about the future of the podcast, of course. There's some developments there. And then I have been on a Zoom call with Geoff Keighley and Troy Baker. So let's see what that's about. But first of all, the most important topic of the day is 2,000 of you guys have listened to us, and we just want to say thanks. This is sick.
2,000. What the hell?
2,000 people. What?
Honestly, that's just kind of mind-blowing.
It's crazy.
Didn't expect that at all to reach it this year.
Yeah, 30 episodes.
I mean, we didn't have any goals for the year anyways, so I don't know what we expected.
Well, we only had goals for ourselves. We wanted to make a podcast that is, you can hang out, it's fun, you can have it on while you're cooking, but you can also, you know, there's also topics that are dear to our hearts, that are important in the game design world and industry, and there are also some very important topics that we have discussed with guests and everything. So we wanted this to be, like, we didn't want to achieve 1 million listeners and 5,000 euros or whatever.
1 million. Calm down.
we just wanted to do this, talk to each other, and
exactly
have some friends join us for a couple of sessions. So thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for making us part of your weekly routine. Means a lot, really.
And actually, did you mention that this is the 30th episode now?
Yeah,
so it's
true.
a round number again.
Round number and a milestone of the listeners. So cool.
Oh.
Awesome. Well, the question of the hour, the question that I always ask you, how's it going? How are you feeling?
I'm doing really well. Hopefully you're doing really well as well.
Yes.
Doing really well as well, yeah.
We're not poets, okay? We're game designers.
Yeah. And from this day on, he felt like he was made for
poetry.
I was kind of occupied with like master thesis in the last week. Made a lot of progress on that one. I don't know, just a quick reminder, writing about level design and virtual reality, of course. And then what's also been occupying me a lot was like getting a first playtest version, early access-ish demo thing of Pizzabot out there and into the hands of some playtesters, and finally getting some reactions. And I'm really looking forward to what the people put in the survey. It's actually playable right now if anyone who's listening to this wants to try it out. But yeah, it's only going to be live for a week, I think. And then we'll see if it's total garbage or if it's actually something we can build upon. And hopefully it's something that has a future. So we'll see.
Yes, you're also thinking, you're still trying to figure out in which direction like the end product is going to go, right? Currently, it's a very straightforward puzzle game. And I played it, and it was very cool to play. And it's actually has a very cute art style. So I definitely recommend checking it out. Gameplay is definitely something that you haven't seen on a mobile phone, and I think it's coming for both, right? PC and mobile.
Yeah, we're keeping it kind of open still to see and kind of figure out the target audience as well, if it's going to be a more casual experience or if we really want to push it in the direction of hardcore puzzle players who can like chain their movements for up to like 20 or 30 commands and then execute the whole level puzzle situation at once. That's something we want to push in the direction, and maybe
which was my feedback in the survey.
That was one, yeah, definitely. The current version only has like you're controlling this little Pizzabot character, like a robot who's delivering pizza and is in this diorama scenarios and has like the classic movement commands, forwards, backwards, turn to the sides, jump around a little bit, and also you only have like, you always execute 4 moves at once, and then you overcome the obstacles that are in the level, and then you have some side story and dialogues adding a little bit of flavor to that. So we want to see how people react to that stuff.
It's funny dialogue. Dude, I laughed like 10 times. I was a little bit ashamed of how many times it made me laugh.
Is this legal?
Is this legal even? That was a really fun little prototype that you guys... It's not a prototype. Let's just say what it is. It's a demo. You guys released a demo, and that's really cool. I think there's not enough demos these days.
Yeah, I think that's always a thing for developers. Putting demos out there is like showing all your cards, basically showing what you have, and then you're of course pretty anxious before it and want to see the reactions, and hopefully they're good and stuff like that. So, but I guess that's probably with everything you put out there. Same as if you, I don't know, work for a AAA company and then you have like a level review or a new narrative beat you're working on and then presenting it to the team.
Yeah, milestones.
Probably also hopefully people like it, and yeah. That's not different for anything. So
true.
You see.
But
what have you been up to?
I wanted to say one more thing that I spotted on your guys' survey, and there was a question in there. Currently, it's a single player, straightforward puzzle game, right? But there was a question in there. Would you like, if I remember this correctly, would you like a multiplayer version of this game that has, instead of playing solo trying to solve the puzzles, you play against other people in this similar diorama approaches, and you try to sabotage each other and reach the finish of this diorama first, right? So
exactly.
And there were multiple answers that you gave me to choose. So you either want to do this on top of the current game, or as a not at all, or as a complete change of the current game. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's a good one. It's a tricky one. I would hate to disconnect everything from the single player experience, because I'm kind of grew a little bit attached to that. But I think that the multiplayer component would for sure help the game in like longevity and long run, and like making the rounds similarly to what like Fall Guys does with the multiplayer components. It's the whole social gaming aspect in Among Us 2. So that could be something when everyone is controlling a robot and you're making your way through the diorama obstacle course, and then you can like place traps in the ways of the others, and then maybe take away some tiles where you can move on and stuff like that. And I think that's a big component, having a multiplayer, which makes people actually engage with the overall IP and makes the game more shareable among people. So you can like challenge your friends and send them, hey, then let's have a duel session, a versus session here. So I think that could be a great component for overall growth and attract a different type of audience as well, on top of the whole puzzle single player experience. It would totally go away from being a puzzle thing and more towards a race game, actually, I think. So you would kind of have two types of games in there, and the trick would be to make them not too distinctive, because I guess you would start with a single player game, learning all the mechanics and how the interaction with the world works, and then you can take that knowledge after you completed the single player part and apply it to like multiplayer matches, and then optimize your pathways and be quicker than your opponents and stuff like that.
The question is if you can still pull that off, right? If that's still something that is possible. If the game isn't completely designed around the multiplayer aspect.
Yep.
Because if I think about this turn-based aspect to your game, yes, it works, and yes, it works in Words Amongst Friends or these picturesque mobile drawers where you just pass turns along with your friends and it doesn't matter when you respond. But if you approach the game in a social aspect like Among Us or Fall Guys, you of course want this to be a real-time thing where you're, oh no, don't sabotage me, I'm so close. These kind of moments, that's how they live, right? So you kind of would need to make it real-time, and that just, destroys your pillars. Yeah,
that would completely change everything.
Okay, well,
yep.
Don't want to have you spoil all your NDAs. There's no NDAs.
There's no NDA now. Yeah. But not show all the cards. Yeah. We're planning a lot for that game if it performs well. So we'll see.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I would probably say my gut feeling would be release the single player game, build a little bit of a tiny fan base for the robot, the lovely pizza robot, and then release a spin-off
on
that
top
is
of that.
Pizzabot Royale or whatever. That's not part of the base game. You know, there's Pizzabot
Or as an
Party
update.
or Party
maybe.
Pizzabot or whatever. Because I don't think these kind of things sell anymore. If it's like, do you name any multiplayer game that has a single-player campaign right now that is successful? That's not AAA.
Well, massively successful. Yeah, that's a good point.
Because I think people currently have this train of thought, like the consumers, the gamers out there. If Fall Guys had a big single player aspect to it, it might not have become so successful because people would like, oh, okay, it also has a multiplayer, but it's not made for that. But it's a sole multiplayer party game. Cool. Yeah, I want to get it.
And it's the way how you approach the marketing and positioning of your game, basically. How you position it amongst the player audience. Yeah, that's for sure a thing. Yeah, I'm actually thinking we're still discussing that, actually, which direction, and we will see it from the playtests and if people actually connect with single player content. So, yeah.
Well, there's only like you gotta wait for the results of your survey, and then we talk again in a couple of sessions when the development has proceeded further along.
And then I can tell you about all the things I've been wrong about pushing that game in a specific direction.
Well, it's part of the fun and part of the process. Yes. Nothing to be ashamed about.
So there's so many awakenings or calls I can already see not working out the way I intended them or we intended them, and but you always have like a backup plan for every decision, so that's good.
Good. All right. As answer to your question, what I've been up to this week. Also writing my thesis, so nothing new there. But there's also been a very cool event that has happened. So I don't know if you guys are aware out there. The Game Awards are happening soon. It's on the, I think, 12th of December, right?
Yes, in like 2.5 months or 2 months.
They just announced that, and Geoff Keighley on his Twitter, he posted like, let's have a Zoom call to discuss just talk about Game Awards and behind the scenes stuff and try to explore what this year's Game Awards are about. And I thought, why not send him a quick email? I definitely want to attend as an industry idiot, as part of our podcast, and like
a lucky shot. Yeah, I wanna be in there, and then it happened.
It had panelists. The Zoom call was structured. There were a lot of people attending, also fans of the thing, also gamers. But it also had panelists. People who had video on and could speak and could ask questions. So to become a panelist, you had to submit some questions, and I submitted some. I'm just going to read my questions soon when we're done with this intro to the topic. And I submitted my questions. They were anti-crunch and other things, and I guess they were quite cool. And so I became one of the panelists, and I could ask my questions, directly and engage a little bit in discourse. And just enjoy this call with Geoff Keighley and then there was a surprise guest as well with Troy Baker. So that was really cool.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay. some prominence.
Yeah.
Like the biggest games media guy and the biggest voiceover actor in the whole games industry in one call. And you were among them.
Yeah, and me as a diehard BioShock fan. I know he's currently more famous for another role, but of course, my favorite role of his will always be from BioShock.
Yeah, Booker and Joel are really great roles he had.
Yeah, true. Confirmed.
Did you do a voice impression to enter the chat? Or can you even talk about it? I don't know if you're allowed to talk about it. Yeah,
I can talk about it. Jeff said in the beginning, we can definitely talk about what happened and what was said in the event, but we can't share video footage or screenshots because of privacy reasons. And because he wants this talk to be, just talking amongst friends, a little bit like our guest episodes. And so that was really cool. So I wanted
250 people.
Yeah, but not everyone had video on, right? Or could be a panelist and could share their thoughts and everything. So yeah, there was like, do you want to hear the questions first and his answers, or do you want to hear a cool story that Troy told us first? It's your choice.
Let's keep the story for a little bit later.
Okay. So I wanted to be delicate, but I also wanted to ask something that is dear to my heart, because we game designers, we often face the problem of not being able to voice our, like what we talk with Lena unions, voice our concerns when it comes to workers' rights, workers' health, come to fair compensation, package deals where you're paid royalties if you're a developer from a game, or even unpaid overtime, crunch, the classic crunch.
Yep.
So it's important that non-game designers who aren't reliant on studios not blacklisting them are, raising their voices for us and this kind of stuff. So I was really carefully, like these questions were vetted, of course, and Geoff read them before. And I also in the video call itself, I asked, hey, Geoff, I have 2 questions. One is towards anti-crunch, and the other one is some more generally acceptable questions. So please choose one. Yeah. And then he said he was adamant on hearing both questions, no matter how delicate they are, and that was really cool of him. And he also wanted to know our podcast and the podcast name. That was also sweet. So
and you plugged it right into him, and now
plugged
he's a
it
fan.
Right there. And the chat reactions were so amazing. I was a little bbit nervous, of course, right? Talking in front of 160 people and Geoff Keighley being there. We grew up with him, the Game Awards opening night live. We were in one of the first rows.
Trailer TV and stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just crazy. And I was just sitting there with Troy Baker, just coming in before that. And now I have to share my thoughts. But the chat was really supportive, and the other panelists are really supportive. Much love in the chat for Germany, for my questions, and for my Kojima hoodie. So I felt confident to share my questions. Yeah. So the first question.
So what was the question?
Yes, sorry.
Enormous build up for this question now.
It will surely disappoint now. Yeah. So the first question was,
what have you had for breakfast, Geoff? And then everyone's like, what?
So the first question was great question. Yes. I was just asking, like, I'm mostly interested in award categories, right? Because they just added a new award category. It's not easy to do this because behind the category is so much work, right? And they just added the accessibility category. Games that have
accessibility stuff, right?
Sorry, yeah, accessibility. Yeah. They just added the accessibility category where exceptional features or progress or innovation in terms of providing accessibility is honored. So my question was also regarding award categories. So will there ever be a reward category to positively reward studios that happen to pull off their game releases exceptionally well regarding worker health? And as an addendum to that, this could be measured by amount of unpaid overtime, or if there's a game release, royalties being paid towards the developers, etc. And I think this is a question that is really important for all of us in the games industry. And if there would, because of course they can't punish studios for violating this. If there's studios out there who are crunching hard, who are, working overworking their employees, how are they supposed to 100% certain?
And their success gives them the justification of continuing with it.
Yeah.
Sometimes now.
How the Game Awards supposed to know if that is actually true? So they cannot punish anyone. That's what Geoff said himself as well, which was quite surprising. But what they can do, and that's why I formulated this question this way, is maybe reward studios, who deserve it, who have earned it by treating their employees extremely well.
The question is, though, how do you measure that? Like, how do you make sure that this data you observe is actually true, and the companies are not like faking that too? So I don't know, you would have to have somebody on the inside all the time to make sure that this is like actual authentic improvements or data you can rely on. So that's, I don't know, for me it feels like it's super hard to measure.
Yep, and those were the gists of his answers as well. He was very, this was amazing. Geoff is a natural speaker anyway, so talking with him is always going to be very pleasant. But the way he worded it and the way he shared his, he's all about the celebration of games, just like us, the industry positivity and seeing the good things in our industry. And you can really feel it with every word he says. Like, he bleeds celebration of games. And this is you could obviously tell that this is something that is very close to his heart as well. He wants developers to be treated well because, as we know, developers who are treated well and they make better games. So he is looking into, rewarding these kind of studios who are pushing new policies, who are like front runners in this entire innovation of worker health. And so we'll see what happens in the next couple of years.
Did he give a little sneak peek of what they are planning to do on that front? Like, I don't know, pushing diversity for something like that, or like generally
still looking into it.
Okay.
It wasn't a generic, but don't get me wrong, it wasn't a generic, oh, we're looking into it. It was really a long-winded, deep dive into his thoughts about the matter and what he feels about the matter. And you could really see that this is something he's also very fond of and is important to him. So we'll see what happens in the future and how is this even going to be able to be rewarded or awarded. So we'll see.
I totally agree with his stance or your stance as well, that rewarding, like leading by example, basically, is the way to go, and not like, of course, you can always call out the studios who are kind of misbehaving in a sense, and you have a lot of journalists doing that already out there, covering that stuff extensively, and it's good that they continue to do that. But in this award stage where we celebrate the industry, having something negative, I don't know, it's not the place, I guess.
And just generally, it's social media, there's so much drama, so many personalities, especially the ones with range, who are just exclusively calling out the bad stuff. Yes, the bad stuff needs to get fixed. And as everyone knows who is a listener or fan of the podcast, thank you, we are big proponents of fighting crunch, fighting like in how's it called? Undiversity, the opposite of diversity. Like we're fighting for trans rights, we're fighting for all the rights inside of the industry, and we want it to be a more inclusive space in total, So that's not something I'm saying lightly, but what I'm saying is that there also needs to be, like, everyone's gonna get depressed if all we ever see is the negatives, So
exactly.
It's great to have someone like Geoff in the games world who can push for positive messages to be seen as well as the negative ones. The negative ones are equally as important. We need to know about crunch. We need to know about worker conditions. We need to know about the terrible things that happen at Ubisoft. This is something everyone needs to know. But we also need to know the positive things that we can be hyped about and that brought us into the industry in the first place and made us love games, right? And developing games.
And what better stage than the Game Awards to do that?
100%.
There are probably also some developers who will, if they are gonna do acceptance speeches as well. I don't know, they're gonna do it fully remote this year, right? With like 3 different locations, 3 different studios at the same time: Japan, London, and what was the third one?
Tokyo.
Los Angeles. Tokyo?
So Tokyo, you said the country. Yeah, sorry. Tokyo,
Japan,
London, and this question was also in the panel or in the talk we had in the call, and his answer was that they're doing this. Like Geoff's original idea was to have 1 in each continent. So he's picking Los Angeles for the States, and London for Europe, and Tokyo for the Asian region.
Asia Pacific, yeah.
So these are the first steps towards this goal of getting 1 on each continent. And I think it makes a lot of sense because the Japanese studios had a hard time, getting to the other award show, and same with the European studios.
I'm interested to see how they're going to structure the show, because they're 100% going to be like acceptance speeches of certain studios and developers, and that's going to be an online party as well, I guess. Similarly to the German thing we watched in the beginning of the year, where all the nominees and stuff were in the Zoom call, and then you could see the live reactions in the gallery grid via Zoom. I don't know. Not sure if they're using Zoom.
I think live reactions should be a big part of this. We still need to see people being excited. This is all about excitement. The Game Awards are all about excitement and celebration of games and making games, and what this is all about. Being happy. And a very important thing that he mentioned as well as one of the answers to one of the questions was that at the Game Awards, all the console rivalry, everything is forgotten. All the games are just there because they're games, and Xbox and Nintendo and the PC, Microsoft, they're all coming together and just presenting and celebrating whatever it is. And if you're an Xbox player and you do not have a PlayStation, you still have stuff to be excited about. And if you're a PlayStation player and you don't have any of the Microsoft stuff, then there's still stuff you can be excited about. And this is what this is about.
And then the big fight for Game of the Year happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just wanted to chip in on or continue on the online character. Because if you look at the Oscars or the television stuff, all the nominees and winners will always use their platform for like their moment of fame and spotlight to use it as a platform to push something. So I'm fully expecting it's gonna be a big part of that show as well. In a year of COVID, in a year of Black Lives Matter, in a year of all the other stuff. So yeah, for sure gonna see stuff like that. And I'm interested to see, completely unrelated to my previous train of thought or tangent. Geoff was always, or the Game Awards were always pretty famous for having like one-upping the previous year in terms of production value. And last year they had like 2 orchestras there and like a live performance thing. And I'm really interested to see how that's going to happen if you split it over 3 locations around the whole world. If you also have like some crazy theater plays, reenactment of certain scenes. Maybe there's something cool in there.
The live performance was Imagine Dragons, right?
And Churches, I think.
Could
from
be.
Death Stranding, yeah.
Or was the
At least that was the show opener.
Good. Maybe that was the year before. I'm not sure. Was there a year before even? So was last year the first Game Awards?
Imagine Dragons were. I'm not sure if it's
2 years ago, I think.
18 or 17.
Yeah. And they moved away from the naming of the, before that, the Game Awards were named Game Awards 2020, Game Awards 2019, or whatever. And they've moved away from that because it's not just about, the release cycle is weird. Like, when can you hand in a game that was released and when does this count and these kind of things? So they just, the Game Awards are just the Game Awards. And when the show comes on, the games around this event are celebrated.
And it's interesting because a week before, Cyberpunk will release, and I think they were going to miss
that was also a question.
The deadline for that.
They will not be eligible. The deadline ends before that, yeah, for sure.
It's interesting that even everyone in that panel fully expects the game to be like a masterpiece and immediately a contender, even though it's not out yet. So it's like, this will be Game of the Year, and people have been saying that for 4 years already. So from the first trailer on, this will be Game of the Decade.
Well, it will have the chance to be Game of the Year 2021.
Yeah,
so
next year.
Maybe it'll get an honorary whatever, anything. So the second question, before we get to the Troy Baker, is: are there any plans for categories honoring non-game but game-related works? Like the Half-Life Alyx documentary he did on Steam, which was, as I heard from you, fantastic. Or maybe there's already a part where you can, they're already honoring excellent or influential content creators with a positive message. So I would like to see revolutionary software or systems in games that have real-world applications, like the Project Discovery from EVE Online, where there's a star search system that does a real-world star searching, or the protein mapping systems in other games. I would like to see these systems honored or recognized as well somewhere, so more developers even extend resources to work on these kind of things.
Something that pushes the industry forward in a technological sense, right?
Yeah, in an innovative, and no one is hurt by this, right? If your awesome EVE Online star live simulation fighting battle whatever game also has a system where you can research planets in world, and that gives scientists data to use in the real world planet searching, why not? That's cool as hell.
It's interesting because the Oscars also have a category who's exactly doing that. Best visual effects is always honoring the movie with some crazy tech that was used for the creation for that. For example, The Irishman was also back then nominated for best visual effects, even though you'd think, okay, that's more like a classic Martin Scorsese drama, but de-aging all the characters and filming it with 2 cameras at once at all the time to have a 3D image of the actors, and then de-aging the faces thanks to the 3D image of the actors and stuff like that, crazy new approaches of filming and creating content, and having that as a category for the Game Awards would for sure be really cool, and just give a big hype behind the scenes peek of how games are made, and maybe kindle the flame in somebody's heart for, I want to make something as cool.
That's why I also submitted this example of the Half-Life Alyx documentary. Recognizing the documentation, or good documentation, creative documentation of game making, as you said, right? So that's really, really cool. And his answer to that was equally hyped and excited as to the first one. That's something that he really likes, and he's gonna try to get this somehow. He goes
immediately to the drawing board.
Yeah, probably. I think that was his answer was it's very much longer than that, of course, but as the general gist of it is that, that's really awesome. And that's something for the future.
Yeah. I love that they're having this inclusive panel and generally using that to hype up the show and the world around the Game Awards.
Yeah. Wish he could be here to share it himself, because he can say this way more eloquently than I can, just recalling what he said.
Official invitation for Geoff.
That's a low-key invitation for Geoff
now
to
he has
come on.
to come.
There's no
Otherwise
other way,
our enormous fan base will riot.
Twitter is out of order tomorrow.
Out of order, yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
So I want to tell you a bit about the Troy Baker thing, because that really surprised me. I knew he's an influential person in the games world, has a lot of fans as well. Some of us are us, some of them are us. But I didn't know like how he was standing towards life. And in these short 10 minutes or 15 minutes that he like shared his thoughts with us, and they had a conversation, like Geoff and him. That was really awesome. But first of all, I'm going to tell you the story that I promised. And that's
it's another long build-up. Let's go.
No, now I'm just immediately dropping the story. There's no long build-up.
Yes, let's go.
So Troy Baker told... well, he told us about his story when he was at the Game Awards where Imagine Dragons was performing. So he was backstage, and they were kind of looking for their seats, and then they were. This, of course, TSA in the front. It might not be 100% perfectly correct what I'm retelling here. It was a very long meeting, but so if there's a little detail that is not correct, very sorry about this. Troy, please don't be mad. But there we go. So he was looking for his seats or something, and then someone from the managers offered him to just come into the VIP section. Doesn't matter, just come into the VIP section. And then they went into the VIP section, and he felt like he clearly didn't belong. Like there was champagne everywhere for free, and the buffet or whatever. There was no one there, and so they take their seats, and they just generally always have this feeling of we really shouldn't be here. And he just asked like 10 times, "Can we really? Is this really okay to be here? Oh my god!" And he was very humble about it, and he was reinforced that it's okay to be there. And then suddenly there's like this big group of people come in, like 15, 20 people, and they were heading straight to them, right, towards Troy. And who they were Imagine Dragons and their spouses and friends, and to take their VIP seats that were reserved, and which are now Troy's seats. And they were also super humble about it. They were like, "Oh no, please stay. It's awesome that you're here. We're gonna go anyway right now and be right back." And then they go onto stage to perform, right? And Troy had this star moment. It was really cool. Just seeing all parties involved so laid back about this was really awesome.
Yeah, and when you're so big, being starstruck about somebody else. And then being humble about it. It's lovely to see.
But then there were the floor was opened for some panelists to ask Troy questions. I didn't ask any because I'm not so involved in all of this, what's happening in the games world and the actors world and that kind of stuff. And I didn't really know much about Troy as a person. And they asked him about, what it's like to be a freelancer and this kind of how he got into the games world and do voice acting. And then it's really amazing how he started talking, and Troy is really passionate. He started talking about, using dissonance. If you're working creatively as a freelancer as well, and you feel like you have dissonance with people and you're being in conflict with someone, you have an argument, that like this is something that he really enjoys, not for argument's sake. He's not enjoying the argument, but he's always able to take a step back and expand his own worldview, Like if he's in dissonance with someone, even that is a positive thing for him, because he can use it to expand his own worldview and tell a story in a good, bad, or in a, if someone hated what you're doing, this was the context of the thing. If he has ever had encounters with fans who loved his stuff or who hated his stuff. And if someone is in dissonance, if someone hates what you're doing, then there's still something to be gained from this, to be learned from this, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And no matter how they word it, because we know how it can be on social media.
Oh, yeah.
And he never has a negative outlook towards any comment. And that's really amazing.
It's a super healthy worldview in general and approach to having conflict being receptive of the other's opinion. You don't have to take over the stance. You don't have to be acceptive of what the other person says, but you can respect that he has these opinions. So I guess that's nice.
And something you have, everyone who is creating anything has to learn. This is part of learning how to deal with criticism.
You can still dislike stuff, but you can also at the same time be respectful of the work that was put into there and respect it for what it is for the final product, even though you personally have a different taste or enjoy doing other things, stuff like that. So being open-minded is, I guess, the key takeaway he wanted to convey, I guess. Yeah,
but this was a whole new... Agreed, but this was a whole new level of being open-minded. You know, the example he gave was a very rude and very terrible comment on his work. Right? That was, I think, related to the original question was how people reacted to what happened to his character in the new Last of Us. Right? So there, of course, were people very vocal and very angry in there, and even then he says it's this is all we can do. We creatives, what we are creating, we can just create something with our passion and with all of our heart and then hope it has an impact on people even years after the fact. And if someone is as vocal about the character that you've created, be it positive or bad, negative, it's still an accomplishment to even have this or lead to this emotional reaction.
Made an impact, yeah.
So that's all we can hope for is the bottom line of this train of thought. It's really cool.
Games do not always have to spark only joy and happy feelings. So if they deliberately have games that spark other emotions as well, that's nice too. Have a variation and a varied color palette of stuff that games can offer. It's just kind of, I always say it as the games offering something that's beyond just fun is for me like the time frame where games became like a maturing art form. Like games have grown up in a sense. I don't want to ever miss the aspect of fun in games. I just want to have fun in games and add new layers on top of that. Like that's for me when the art form of games really matured sometime in the late thousands, early 2010s. That really started to me. So it's nice to see Troy's perspective on that as well.
Yeah, but we also have this additional layer that Troy has as well, which is creating the games. We're not gamers or not just gamers. We are the creators of said games. And to be able to, and that's something when he shared anecdotes from his own life, he started out as some clerk. I don't remember where. It's like in a shopping something or in a gas whatever, some clerk somewhere. And even then, he treated his job with respect, and he treated it as something where he's building and telling his story, even when he was just a clerk somewhere and not known, right? And then he brought up a comparison, which was really amazing. And he said that don't treat what you're doing as just a job, and respect it and treat it as a career. And that's when he said was the turning point for him in his mind, when he realized that what he's doing is not just a job. I'm not doing this just to do ends meet, but it's my career. This is I respect what I'm doing. I respect myself. I love what I'm doing. Yeah, that's the dude. People in chat, he is a poet with his words, and people in chat were just going crazy, and some people were crying. It's a very touching, emotional moment to hear this kind of stuff. And then he brought up a comparison as well. If you're currently dating someone, you're seeing this person. I'm seeing my girl. I'm just dating this girl. Versus this person is now your partner, your girlfriend, your wife, your husband, whatever. And your spouse.
Showing commitment and compassion, yeah.
Yeah, comparing this, just a job mindset versus this is my career and I respect this. And that also means that you must be able to say no sometimes, which is hard.
Oh, yeah.
Which is super hard. Job offers, or if you're a freelancer especially, like if 10 awesome studios offer you a job, or even if a job that you really do not want to do, that if you respect your own career and if you respect what you're doing, then sometimes you got to say no.
I mean, if you're in a position to be able to choose, of course.
Yeah, of course.
So he's probably a very fortunate guy who can't, he gets so many offers, I guess, from every AAA game to have Troy back in there because he became a marketing term as well to have him attached to the game. So
yeah, in no way did he say that at all to, he didn't say this to be inconsiderate about people who are just starting up freelancing. He just said this to be able to, you have to respect what you're doing. And sometimes if you want to be a game designer and someone offers you a different job, that would,
you don't enjoy as much.
That would destroy your time that you could use to study, and you're in a position where you're fortunate enough to be able to afford studying game design, for example, then you shouldn't choose the other one if that's not what you really want to do.
I agree.
Yeah, and that was Troy Baker, Geoff's surprise for everyone at the panel. And yeah, it was a real good surprise.
Nice that he's bringing these surprises. But I think in the panel before that, they did it at a different time. There was also a surprise, but I can't remember who he brought there. Not sure.
Did you know how he got into games and voicing games?
No, I never heard that story. I think I'm pretty sure they shared he shared that story on the podcast he's on, Play Watch Listen, but I'm totally forgot it if he did. So
he was a musician before, right? And it's still a big part of his life. And then
singer or instrument?
Good question. Both probably.
Oh, okay.
And then a buddy of his asked him if he wants to, do you want to be the voice of this guy in my game? And then he's like, yeah, sure, why not? And you're also getting paid. And he's like, what? I can get paid for this? This is awesome. And that's how it happened. That's all there is to the story.
That's the moment when you realize you can make what you're enjoying into a career. So the story comes full circle.
Yeah, confirmed. Full Circle, which is also the song from BioShock. Circle Be Unbroken. Ooh, that he sung, right? Didn't he also get like a nomination or something for it?
A cover? Could be. But I noticed in the beginning when you planted the Imagine Dragons thing, and then the Troy Baker story also touched on the Imagine Dragons thing. So you had a little arc in your recapitalization, or how do you say it? Recounting of the
events. Yeah.
Recounting of the events in itself. So I appreciate it.
So yeah, thank you for listening.
Nicely told. Yeah.
And actually, I haven't told this to Sven yet. So as you guys know, we also hang out every day. But after the call, I was so stoked and so excited. I wanted to tell Sven immediately. But we were like, no.
I was like, no, tell it tomorrow.
Tell it tomorrow on the podcast where it's authentic reactions.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
I would have loved to be there. But I guess it's...
Next one.
Next one, yeah, maybe. And then plug the Industry Idiots again. Just like, what? Another one?
I just want to say that I said, no, I'm not going to plug because I don't want to advertise my podcast here, or our podcast, our game design show.
Different show, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to advertise this here. This is your show, and we're here to celebrate the Game Awards. And then he insisted. It was also very, very nice.
Awesome super guy. Polite, yeah.
And yeah, so
now you know why he has 1 million Twitter followers. He's
1.2 million. Crazy.
All around the hype man of the industry, as we always say.
Yeah, which the industry desperately needs. So let's hope there's at least 30 more years of hype man Geoff in the industry, where he's actively working in the industry.
Making until he's 70. How old is he? I don't know, mid-40s?
I think, something a little bit above 40.
So, and then you have this epic old man Geoff revealed on some kind of old chair with a long beard, and then somebody's going to make a documentary about him. Instead, he's been spending all of his life making documentaries about games, starting in the early 2000s, late 90s with the first Half-Life and all this behind-the-scenes stuff, and then everything comes back to him.
Full circle again.
Again, yeah.
Oh, we're speaking so much in metaphors. Yeah,
I guess.
Fits perfectly, though, with another topic that we wanted to talk about today, which is the future of our show, the future of the industry, its game design podcast.
I have some interesting stuff prepared.
Yes, some surprises that I already teased on Twitter. Maybe you wanna let everyone in on our plans?
Yeah, for sure. So the biggest change, basically, at some point in the coming weeks, maybe next episode, maybe the one after, we are gonna turn this little podcast into a more visual experience as well. So we're gonna have our both lovely faces glaring at your screen, being presented and talking with each other, and we'll be on YouTube with in the form of a video podcast, basically. So nothing will change if you are following us on Spotify or whatever podcast app you're following, but you can have this extra visual component to it on YouTube. Yep. If you want to follow on YouTube. And actually all the current episodes are re-uploading there right now. We are putting their 2 episodes a day until we caught up, which is probably sometime mid-October. And then starting from then, we'll have the podcast in video form, which will be pretty nice. And I'm looking forward to that. So you can see our reactions when I'm reacting to Sam's ramblings, and you can see Sam's reactions when he's reacting to my nonsense. So perfect.
That's very humble of you. But I think we're both experts at being nonsensical. Easy peasy.
True. Fair enough.
So yeah. That's very exciting. We're still trying to figure it all out. It's not as easy as we thought. We thought, we established this producing pipeline for the audio part of it. We have all this hardware set up. We're ready. We've all this. We have our producing and our media background at ProSieben, right? So we thought, this is. Well, I've worked in the
setting something up that is time-wise achievable next to a job and a full-time study. So we wanted to get that right, and now after we've grooved in and have the workflows established, now adding another layer to it, and maybe even more layers later on. We'll see.
What I meant with the video is that's why I brought us on this tangent, is that it's not that easy. What goes on behind the scenes when we're recording, right? It's pretty simple. We have our setup and we record an audio track, and we are in a video call with each other, so we can see each other and the conversation is more natural. And of course, we prepare topics, we prepare all the stuff outside of the show for the show, and then we're in the show, we're recording, and then in the end, I in editing bring the 2 tracks together. I fix all the empty gaps, the mistakes, the reorderings, if we forgot something.
Like
this
that,
kind of
you
stuff.
Probably want here.
The glass falling over, the PC exploding, catching fire, this kind of stuff. I fix that, and
totally happened.
When Sven forgets to close his windows, I fix all the noises of the cars.
We have to hide the fucking racing track outside my window.
But it's relatively simple, We're recording, and then we edit, and then we upload, and then we do Sven does all the promo. And we do the social media posts together, and then everything goes live everywhere. And then I cut the videos, and it also goes live on YouTube. And this is all the things that happen. Straightforward workflow. Everything happens in the same program. Not a lot of hoops to jump through. But when you add the video component, all the audio recording softwares can't record video. So now we have to record video somewhere else. But how do you record video without loss of quality and without delay? So it still...
Indeed.
There's a lot of layers
becomes a no challenge.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers to adding to this. And it's also less forgiving to how we talk to each other. So sometimes...
There's less editing, I guess.
And also, edits it still has to be an enjoyable experience that flows nicely. So we can't do like 500 cuts, because if we have 500 cuts in the YouTube version of the show, it's going to look super weird.
The YouTube version probably remain uncut, basically. Industry Idiots Uncut, the new version. And then, I don't know.
Well, we're still figuring this out. The goal is that we...
Yeah. Indeed.
What's important is that you, as the audio-only listener, will not be affected. You just have this additional layer that you can listen and see us on YouTube, or you can, as you've always done, listen to us everywhere else, just as you would.
Yes. Nothing else will change. Guests will continue to come on. So that's also... Now
we have to convince the guests to actually show their face as well.
Damn it, maybe that makes everything harder.
No, it will make everything easier, because our handsome guests, of course, will look amazing next to us goofy heads. Easy. There you go.
Smooth.
Smooth.
Great pitch.
So we're looking forward to this, because we have a lot of funny moments where, it is about...
Facial reactions.
It's about hanging out with each other. It's about, us and
seeing
with
how
us.
not tidy our rooms are, and how under the bridge we are living. Stuff like that.
Balcony cams. There we go.
Sadly, we don't have pets, both of us. So we can't have like a dog running in or a cat running in and then having this cute pet moment. You won't have any pet moments for our podcast. So have to break that bubble. So
we're trying to afford the hardware to have video stuff go on. And that's the goal for the next couple of weeks. Maybe, like, no promises. Well, Sven was very generous with his estimate, 1 to 2 weeks. I will hold out and say yes, maybe, hopefully. 1 to 2 episodes. Not hopefully. 1 to... This is 2 weeks. 2 episodes, 2 weeks. Hopefully 1 to 2 episodes, but could also be longer. So... Yes, we'll see.
But that's not the only thing. We are also planning for the channel, for the video part.
Yes.
We're also drafting and brainstorming about other content parts, which we'll at some point probably announce. Goes more into the direction of video essay stuff, and then looking at games from a design perspective, and then we see what do we make out of that. So
yeah, but not exactly. We're still trying to figure out which direction we're going there. So no announcements yet. Might never happen. This is just some thoughts that we share with each other as the industry idiots.
Yes. So it's a live brainstorming of some sort. Right in this moment, it has not been decided.
Then there were two other things this week that entered our lives. The Mafia remake and Among Us. Which one do you want to go first? Because we might not have time for both.
Oh, damn it. I mean, I can go on for probably a lot relating Mafia.
Okay, let's be fair. To be honest, we don't need to talk about Among Us because everyone knows what Among Us is and what it's about.
Played it by now, I guess. Yeah.
So let's just hear your thoughts and your love for the Mafia remake.
Yeah, as people who've maybe listened to one of the earlier episodes know that the original Mafia from 2001 was one of my most favorite games of all time. And that was one of the games that opened my eyes in terms of, wow, games can be so much more than just arcade experiences. And it really was like Goodfellas as a playable game. And in terms of storytelling, it was able to rival the best movie blockbusters and Mafia movies. And that game, I have a lot of warm feelings about it and big nostalgia glasses on. But to be honest, from a nowadays perspective, was the most inaccessible action game I can probably remember. So the controls back in the day were like, it was super hardcore in that game. You immediately died. The car controls were clanky as hell. And like the police in this open world city was like super adamant. If you were speeding, they were chasing you and stuff like that. So it's a super realistic, super simulated experience of the 1930s. And what they now did with the remake is made everything a little bit more modernized and accessible and streamlined. And the old game was also very, very much, let's say, stretched out in some beginnings. There were a lot of car drives from one point to another that were not necessary when nothing happened, where you were just driving around the city. Of course, that is part of the old flair of taking everything in, getting to know the city, getting to know the best routes and stuff like that. But there were so many in the old game. And in terms of pacing and stuff like that, the new game, I only played like 5 or 6 hours by now, but I'm really enjoying it. It's a very faithful remake of everything. They're really putting out some car rides I remember to be exceptionally long, which are not there. They just put in a time skip and moving on to the next scene, and it really helps the story to catch a certain momentum, which the previous game did not manage actually. So that's a good thing, which the remake achieved as well. So modernizing the gameplay, the car controls are now much easier if you choose to take it that way. That's also one aspect. And like overall visually, it's really cool to see what you have back in the day. Like you remember it to look as good like the newest version looks now. Like my memory of the old game is how I'm experiencing the remake right now. So that's like this very weird, like uncanny valley kind of thing, because they have really faithfully rebuilt all of the city and all of the landmarks and stuff like that. So the only thing they did kind of change a lot were the characters, and like not what the characters are, but like how the characters sound and how the characters look like. So you have to get used to that if you still think that you want to hear in the German version, for example, the German synchronous, how do you say it? The voice actor for Joe Pesci, for example, was in the German version, and now in the German version it's a completely different actor because, of course, the voice actor is super old now and can't continue doing the work. And all these little changes, of course, you can understand that they couldn't continue on with the old cast, and so the characters get a kind of a new touch and a new personality. But I'm totally fine with it. So overall, I'd say it's a very faithful remake and very enjoyable experience for now. And I'm really excited to see where this is going. It feels very much gameplay-wise like Mafia 3 if you play that, but in a different setting.
Well, I've played none of the Mafias, but I remember that on the Roberto episode where Roberto Padron was visiting us, being our guest, hanging out with us, you guys were also raving on about how awesome Mafia is, so I might still need to give it a try someday.
Yeah, for sure. The strength is really the atmosphere it manages to capture. Like, I've not seen anything like it. So, like, it really immerses you very much in this 1930s Chicago-esque mafia prohibition era, smuggling goods, like going through Chinatown, and then you're getting raided by the triad and stuff like that. So it has everything. And of course, because it's a video game from the early times, it has, of course, a lot of cheesy stuff as well, which you'd expect when hitting it with a classic video game writing term. And but yeah. So actually I'm remembering one of the accessibility features right now is the original game got a lot of flack for not hand-holding, in the sense of you easily could get lost. There were no map markers. You would have to navigate and orient yourself with opening a map and looking at, okay, I'm at this street, that is this on the map. You didn't have a like quest marker where you would have to go and stuff like that, and no navigation and stuff like that. And now in the new game, you of course have all the accessible stuff the newer open world games have as well, wayfinding, and then there's these street signs that fade in basically when you're nearing a street corner where you can drive around, and then they disappear again. So it's this kind of a mix of a 3D element in the game world and a UI overlay. And of course you can turn that off if you want. But there are like so many little new accessibility features that make the thing a lot more streamlined and more accessible for the casual gamer. So a million of these in there. And yeah, I guess that's kind of drifted into a review instead of an analysis, but those are my feelings. As a fan of the original, I definitely recommend this. It's so many nostalgia moments hitting hard. So
unfortunately, I can't share any of those experiences yet, but it definitely sounds very promising, and it's also in a setting that I would enjoy. And it just generally, that I know that it's also known for its narrative, so definitely something I need to explore in the future. But before we close out and enter the exit area of our podcast, I'd like to shout out a few of our friends or community members, or just kind people out there who have been writing some nice comments everywhere and retweeting us. So I want to say thank you to Thorsten Becker. He's always extremely supportive and a good friend, and it's always sharing super kind words about the podcast, about everything related to narrative design. So thank you very much. And also to Edwin, who really loved, who was also a guest here, but also loves all the episodes and always shares his thoughts. So shout out to you too. Thank you very much. Shout out to everyone else who's always sharing kind words. We see them all. We see the little great episode. Thank you. It's just a couple words that you're saying, but it means a lot to us. So thank you very much. Just throwing this out there.
Indeed.
Yeah. While we're already talking about the future, we might as well get a little bit emotional about that there's actually so many people listening, and some even, just voice their pleasure or displeasure with us. And that's really cool to hear.
And of course, if you want to continue on listening to these lovely fellows, to our rambling nonsense, you can follow us, of course, on Twitter under the tag of @IdiotsIndustry, or on Instagram @IndustryIdiots. Visit our websites, industryidiots.com. We have now a dedicated guest section on there where you can see all the guest episodes at once. Or just visit us on YouTube. You'll probably find us under the same name, the Industry Idiots Game Design Podcast.
Yep.
And yeah, that's basically all the contact points you can have.
2 episodes until we're caught up on YouTube. And then afterwards, hopefully, there's going to be video episodes. And as Thorsten put it so nicely, we are trying to keep up the quality of just us 2 guys as we would be sitting on your couch. this head image that we try to.
Hopefully, we're achieving that.
Yeah, we try to achieve that. We are just, we're all sitting in the same room and enjoying each other's company and deep dive design topics and hang out. And thank you very much for making us part of your weekly routine. And as always, bye.
Bye.
Easter egg.